Hey everybody, if you're joining us early, we're going to be getting started in a few minutes here when it's a little bit closer to noon with the promised start date. Feel free to go ahead and submit questions if you have them. Just click on the Q&A tab in your interface and type them in, and we will get to them as we go through. So sit tight for the meantime. Do this. Those of you who are joining us already, that's my dog in the background. His name is Aesop. He'll be running around the school. So we won't be able to hear you guys. We just need you to submit any questions that you have through the Q&A tab, or you can also email them to hello@primeacademy.io, and we'll address them that way. Or I suppose you could tweet them, and we could get them that way too if you want to tweet to us at @GoPrimeAcademy. Any of those ways are ways that we can kind of accept questions from you guys. Well, we're probably close enough to starting that we can go ahead and get going. To start off, I think we'll just introduce ourselves and let you guys know who we are. And you can just, like I said, feel free to chime in with questions through the Q&A portion of the Hangout, preferably. Or if you're not able to do that, then go ahead and send us an email at hello@primeacademy.io, or tweet the question to us at @GoPrimeAcademy. So I can start off. My name is Mark Gilbert. I am the president of Prime. I have been a developer, or worked in the software development industry for about a dozen years now. I've been with a company called The Nerdery that is the founder of Prime for about 10 years, and I've always been really passionate about education and learning and development, and so I'm really happy to have a chance to be taking on a leadership role in the school, and helping to kind of build up the network of employers and opportunities that we have for students going forward.
Sure thing. Hi everyone, my name is Fred Sheehan. I'm going to be helping with both curriculum and then also behavioral and career readiness skills for everyone. So my job here at Prime is to make sure that you all have the best environment possible for learning effectively within the program, and also to be job ready by the end of the program as well. A little bit about my background. So I have a cognitive psychology, social psych background. I was actually a psychology major back in the day. I have a master's of education from Harvard Graduate School of Education, and I've worked in both higher education and also large corporate orgs and smaller organizations around the Twin Cities area too. I've got a good deal of experience in knowing what people are going to be looking for interview readiness and job skills, and I'm happy to pass that along to you all.
Yes, it's me. My name is Scott Bromander. I am the first full-time instructor for Prime Digital Academy. Like Mark, previously I was an interactive developer for the Nerdery for a number of years. Prior to that, I worked for Best Buy, and I worked specifically on kind of like a big order management system that I helped develop, and then actually ended up doing instructing for them as well too. So I spent a year as a full-time traveling instructor, basically touring the country and doing week-long, 8-hour-a-day trainings to groups of 200 people at a time. In a separate chronology, I actually had a second job for about 5 years now as an instructor for what is now called Sanford Brown, teaching for their game production curriculum, as well as their web development and animation. So I've been teaching web development now for about 4 or 5 years. So I've been doing this for some time. I love teaching. I'm excited to get to meet everyone and kind of get the ball rolling and start this really cool new venture for us.
Well, feel free to chime in with questions as you guys have them. I think what we'll probably do until questions start to come in is just talk a little bit about things that we've heard from other people already, and some of the questions that we've gotten via email from people. Please do chime in on either the chat or the Q&A tab if you can't hear us, or if you're having any issues that way. This is the first time we're doing one of these using this technology, so we're hoping that you can hear us and we're not just kind of pantomiming and whatever at this point. But you're enjoying the dog in the background, if nothing else. Hopefully.
If they could hear you,
yeah, exactly. So basically, we have had a really great response. A lot of people have started applications since we did our big announcement on Monday, and we're definitely seeing a lot of people go through the first couple sections, and we think a lot of people are in the process of working on their resume challenge right now. So we're expecting there might be some questions here today on that, and kind of people who might be wondering if they're stuck in certain parts, or just want some kind of tips or pointers on resources that they can continue to build that experience with. One of the questions that I've gotten a few times from people is asking about age limits on the program. Kind of how old do you need to be? And ultimately, we don't have a set age requirement for the program, although we're not expecting to take anybody who isn't at least a high school graduate for the first couple cohorts. The program is really designed around adult learning, and so we're expecting kind of a certain level of maturity within the program, and most of the applicants that we've seen at this point are people who, many of which already have degrees, some of which are adults who've been in the workforce for a while, some of which are college students or college graduates, and that's kind of where we're expecting to see the focus of students early on.
Also, you've seen quite a few newer people who have started families and are looking to get back into the workforce. So they've been out of the workforce for some time. I think that's what you need to sort of mention.
Yeah, absolutely. So beyond that, I guess one of the questions that we've gotten a little bit is what is the time commitment for the program, and we can talk about that in a little more depth. Basically, the official program is 18 weeks long, and then beyond that 18 weeks, we are definitely looking to connect graduates with opportunities for apprenticeship and entry-level work within our hiring network, and those are a whole other kind of next stage of your career progression after Prime. But in Prime itself, the 18 weeks, the first 6 weeks are pre-study, so that is work that's done at your own pace. You're kind of doing it online, and you're having weekly check-ins with somebody like Scott to kind of confirm that you're getting the material and getting a chance to ask any questions that you might have, and just that you're kind of fully getting a chance to get what's going on. After that 6 weeks, though, we move into the 12 weeks in the classroom, and that's when you start coming to the facility, and you're coming in every day of the week for school, and that's a pretty intense commitment. So, you know, really you are there from 8 to 6, Monday to Friday, and then there'll also be some group challenges and weekend assignments and stuff that you guys will be working on over the weekend. There are two reasons why it's that intense. The first is there's a whole lot of stuff that we want to teach you guys, a whole lot of things that you need to be exposed to in order to be able to be effective as an entry-level developer. And having that level of intensity allows us to really ensure that you're getting exposure to a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say the other part of that thing too is that there's another question that we get on the other side of that is, you know, can I learn how to be a software developer within the time frame of the program? And the response to that, of course, is yes, through intense learning. So really, you know, in some ways, behaviorally changing into a software developer requires that full immersion into the content. So.
Absolutely, it's going to help quite a bit in terms of getting matches within the apprentice network and then also the hiring network that we've created. Having that type of deep dive exposure also gives you a better understanding of the craft of software development holistically. We have a lot of cool partnership opportunities, mentors aligned, and activities that are going to get you a deeper exposure to what that means, both in terms of the workplaces and in terms of some of the ways to keep up your learning within your career. And that's some of the stuff that we're very excited about, and we're seeing a lot of awesome partnerships across the Twin Cities companies on that.
So yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, let me make the second point, and then we'll go on to answering that. The other thing, so beyond just wanting to get you guys exposure and wanting you guys to get up to speed on it, the intensity of the program is one of the things that our hiring partners are really attracted by. They like the idea that, oh wow, these people have made a really significant commitment and they're really working hard to get this work done. And it's one of the things that that is really getting so many different companies to sign up to be interested in meeting graduates from the program for apprenticeship and for hiring. So it works both ways. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but we definitely think there's a payoff in it for you. So. I got our first question here. Audience member says, GitHub is not working for me. I uploaded my code last night and it said published, but there was nothing there this morning. There's a couple troubleshooting steps we can kind of talk you through, because we've actually run into this a little bit with GitHub pages being working, but not necessarily working exactly the way that that GitHub says it will. Do you want to respond to that?
So a couple thoughts. The first is in the app itself, the GitHub app, you need to make sure that you're both committed and synced. We ran into one question we had gotten was, hey, I committed my code and it's not showing up. And what had happened was that the sync didn't, the second step that the syncing didn't actually go through. So once the page was synced, then it went through the standard lag time, which I'll talk about now. GitHub themselves say that, hey, sometimes that first publish can take anywhere from up to like 10 to 30 minutes. The reality is I've seen it take up to 4 or 5 hours. So overnight seems, gosh, it's really taking you a long time, but I would just double check to make sure you're synced. And then if you waited, I would say more than 6 hours, feel free to shoot us an email, and actually I'd be more than happy to help you troubleshoot and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Especially since as we're kind of going through this first round, figuring out what challenges people are running into so we can get that information disseminated to everybody is super interesting. So feel free to shoot us an email, and I'm more than happy to work with you and figure out what's going on.
And you can send that to admissions@primeacademy.io. That'll get all of us. The other thing to note with that is just to make sure that that there's a specific naming convention for the repository that you're trying to get on Git pages, and I believe it's your username.github.io, correct? So if that's not the name of your repository, that could be your problem, and you might want to create a new repository or rename the one that you have to that. Again, that's something we can help you with troubleshooting. If you're having problems with it, just email us directly.
The other thing I'll mention too is check your username.github.io/index.html. That's another thing we've noticed too, that for whatever reason, some people's pages are only getting loaded to the index.html. I haven't got to the root of the problem, but as soon as I know, I will post that to the site and let everybody know. But check /index.html or whatever your HTML page happens to be.
So feel free to, again, anybody else out there, submit questions through the Q&A tab on the Hangout. There should be a little turquoise box that says Q&A in it. You can click on and type in a question, or you can email it to us or tweet us. Yeah. Do you guys have stuff that you would like to pull up? I mean, I guess some of the questions that I've heard. Well, here, something you want to?
Oh yeah, I was going to be happy to share. So some of the high-level things that we're thinking of for curriculum, it's going to be much more than just programming content. And part of that is to make sure that we're tightly aligned with the hiring partner needs, to make sure that you guys are prepped for getting jobs if that is the outcome that you're looking for coming to the program. So some of the things that we're looking at, in addition to just the programming stack that we're focusing on, we have core concepts, we have some CS fundamentals in there as well. We have some behavioral skills that we'll be focusing on, and some of that is communication, interpersonal types of challenges as well, and conflict management. And a lot of that is due to some of the work that we're going to be doing is very heavily pair programming focused and then also team oriented. So we want to make sure that you have the best possible experience with your peers and with both the community partners who are also involved. So we'll have mentors coming in from the development community as well. So we'll make sure that you guys and also the other people who are volunteering at Prime have the skills and capabilities to make sure that it's a great experience for everyone. So we're definitely strongly committed to that, and I think that's going to be one of the things that is really going to kick it off to a very good, deep, fun, and very effective learning experience for everyone.
Another question via email here. Maybe Scott, you could address this one. It says, what will the focus of the program be? Will it be more focused on front-end development, or will this program give you a broader range of development skills?
Sure. Yes and yes. So as the approach that we took when we were, or the approach that we are taking as we write the curriculum is, we are looking and talking to our hiring partners to ensure that we're hitting like the mark of like, gosh, what does an entry-level software developer position look like? And typically when you look at those positions, you can kind of see that either as a JavaScript developer or as a front-end development position. And so ideally, we are targeting the JavaScript development position. However, we've hit the front end deep enough that in that last 6 weeks, if that's the area that you really want to focus on, you'd be set up to pass the challenges and so on. And we're actually using the Nerdery front end code challenge as kind of a starting point to talk to our hiring partners and ensuring that, what do their front end standards look like? And those are absolutely brought into the classroom. So the primary, of course, is the JavaScript developer position in full, with the idea of it being a full stack developer as well too. But some people are naturally going to gravitate toward design. I know it's actually what attracts some people to this program too, is the design portion of web development, and that has not, fallen on deaf ears over here. And so that's absolutely it's integral to our program, really. And I think it's also reflected in, not only we're teaching CSS to an in-depth degree, but also looking at technologies like Bootstrap and Sass as things we recognize that potential employers are interested in. Can you spin out something that looks really great, really quick? Lots of questions coming in now.
Yeah. So here's a question that says, highest level of formal education that I've completed of high school algebra. What level of math do you feel is necessary for success in your program?
Great question. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and take this one. So I myself focused on math quite a bit in my undergrad. And one of the things I was surprised is that after 4 years of calculus and going into programming, I used none of it. And really, it's like the depth of math that you need to know really kind of depends on what kind of programming that you want to get into. And so I'm just going to focus on the only one that really requires any sort of like knowledge depth in math itself. And so that's more of like your doing 3D rendering within the browser itself. So kind of getting really deep into the GPU to some extent, and really kind of figuring out advanced trig, so to speak. But really the big focus on what people think is math is actually logic. And so a lot of the logic challenge questions that you saw tie directly into programming principles. So we're targeting that, we're looking for that, but it's as long as you're doing well in the logic challenges, you got the component that we need that is often associated to math and programming.
And speaking of the logic questions, there is another question here that says, I got an email about an incorrectly worded logic question after I submitted my app. That was Scott's fault. Just kidding. Is there a way to double check my answer? Yeah, there was just a few people that had submitted prior to that. We'll take a look, for the individual who asked this question, we'll take a look at your answer, and if it warrants you to take another look at it, we'll ping you and let you do that. The one question, one way or another, is not necessarily going to make or break your application, but we do definitely want to make sure that you get a fair shot at it. So we'll double back with you after the hangout today. I have a couple related questions here now. Kind of answer them together. The first says, paying over $12,000 plus giving up the ability to gain income for 12 weeks is a big deal without the insurance of government student loans. The financing options are still a lot of money per month. Are there options for people who don't have bunches of cash? And ultimately, there are some options available, and we're working to be able to expand options going forward as much as possible. The financing options are really there to try and make it easier for people who might not have a whole bunch of money saved up to be able to pay for prime. Another of the questions that is out here that I'll address, I'll kind of pull that in to cover both of them, is somebody saying, I found out about this program through a workforce development website, and they received information from them saying the program would be free. And that is true. That will be true for some people. We've got a great partnership with the City of Minneapolis, Minnesota High Tech Association, the Creating IT Futures Foundation, that is pulling some money together from federal, state, and private sources to provide a pool of money for students to be able to support this kind of education. Because we're not an accredited university, we're a private career school in Minnesota and are licensed that way. We're not eligible for a lot of the traditional Pell Grants and other federal student aid. Luckily, the program is $12,000 is a significant amount of money, but it's a lot less than a traditional college education. So it's a little more swingable using other means. But for the first 4 cohorts, of which we are, first 3 cohorts that the registration for all those is open right now, the city has committed to being able to provide basically 100% tuition coverage for 20 students. So about a third of the people that are in the first 3 cohorts, assuming that they meet the eligibility guidelines, will be able to get their tuition paid for. The eligibility guidelines, they're working on tweaking it right now. What's up on the website is accurate, but it's kind of a worst case scenario, which is that if you're an individual person and you have no dependents, if your income is less than $22,340, you would be eligible for tuition grants, basically, under that program. If your income is over that and you have no dependents, chances are you're not going to qualify for that particular program. If you do have dependents, they are working on determining whether or not they are going to be able to make the scale slide. So if you had a couple kids, it might be more like $30,000 or $40,000 would be cut up rather than 23. So stay tuned for that. The partner that is facilitating the distribution of those funds is Jewish Family and Children's Services of Minnesota, and they're working closely with the city and the state to set those guidelines, and we are publishing as quickly as we get them. So stay tuned there.
And the other thing I'll mention too is that with that, of course, acceptance to the school is a prerequisite to being able to apply for it.
Yep, absolutely. But beyond that, the financing options that are out there are by no means the beginning and the end of your options for being able to pay for school. We really encourage people to talk to their banks, talk to family members that they think might be able to help them out. There are a lot of options there that they can pursue. The other thing is you can prepay as much of the tuition as you would want. So if you have a couple $1,000, if you have $5,000 saved up, you can prepay $5,000 and then finance the rest, which would significantly, depending upon how much you pay, bring down the cost of financing over time. So we're trying to make it accessible for as many people as possible. If you have specific concerns or questions, or you kind of want to talk about your situation, feel free to email us at hello@primeacademy.io or go ahead and give us a call at the phone number on the website, and I'd be happy to talk you through what options might be available for you.
Good questions, everyone.
Yeah. So we have another question here that says, what is the hardware requirements for the class in terms of computers? I've heard you may need a MacBook in order to use the software you have. Would my Windows 7 laptop work? Can you answer that?
Go ahead. I mean, I think we come to a consensus.
Yeah. So basically, we are standardizing on OS 10 Yosemite for the classroom environment, and that's really for a couple of reasons. It's to help students be able to have a consistent experience because we're doing a lot of stuff in groups and a lot of stuff with pairing. We want to apply a level of consistency across all of the users so people are able to kind of know what they're doing when they're working together and on each other's machines. The requirements, the hardware requirements, are really that your system is capable of running OS 10 Yosemite. If you if you're a hacker and you got your Hackintosh going and can get OS 10 Yosemite running on your Windows 7 laptop, that might be a doable thing. Most people though are going to want to just kind of be getting access to an Apple laptop. The only thing you do need is the laptop. We're going to have adjustable height desks and a bunch of other stuff. This is Bill Stevenson that just joined us. Adjustable height desks and large monitors on monitor arms for you guys, as well as external keyboards and mice that you can use in the classroom. So you basically just need to have your laptop. But that's really the hardware requirements end up being the hardware requirements for OS 10 Yosemite. So any late model Apple laptop is going to be good, and we can kind of talk to you if you have specific concerns about where you're at. So
if you're within 2 years, you're probably fine.
Yeah. Next question. Do you need to live in Minneapolis for the financial assistance? No, you do not. The requirement is that you are a Minnesota resident, but even though part of the funds are coming from the city of Minneapolis, they're actually federal funds, as I understand it. So, so those will be eligible for any Minnesota resident that's interested in the program.
So, do you want to say anything else about the decision?
Yeah, one of the things that we've gotten asked a couple times is, like, given that given this is a school environment and it's a big commitment for people. People have asked, what sort of guarantee do I have that I'm going to get a job? What sort of guarantee do I have that I'm going to be able to turn this into a stream of income? Right now, we don't have a formal guarantee in place. We're not offering a money back guarantee that you're going to get a job. Having said that, I've been kind of running point on building the hiring network and doing the outreach to employers, and we have had an incredibly positive response. I can tell you that there definitely are people that desperately are looking for individuals with the skills that we're aiming to teach you in Prime. And we have a lot of people that are really excited to meet graduates of the program and be getting them involved in apprenticeship and entry-level work at their organizations. And I think that the outlook especially for these first couple cohorts is going to be just awesome. I think that if you're willing to work hard and you are going to be picking up on the stuff, you're definitely going to have a great opportunity. And we're going to be able to connect you with some really good shots at being able to build a career that's going to go places. So.
Yeah, we have some very solid systems that we're setting up for introducing you to networking opportunities within the community too. A number of people who have expressed some high interest in basically getting involved, volunteering, connecting, mentoring students within the program is pretty fantastic. And the apprenticeship piece of the program at the very end too is going to be a great way to actually get some face-to-face time with people who are going to be making hiring decisions as well, so you can actually have personal connections there. We've done a lot of research with other boot camps out there, and the thing that we've heard time and time again from student graduates was we wish we had more opportunities to connect with people in the field in the actual hiring workplaces, and that's something that we're definitely taking to heart.
Got a question from somebody who's asking, what level of demand have you seen for the program? How competitive will it be to be accepted? It's a tricky question to answer because, you know, we are early on. We announced on Monday. We have seen a really great level of response. A lot of people have started applications. We haven't seen a ton of applications be completed yet. You know, relatively. Granted, it's going to take 5 to 10 hours to probably put together a resume. So we feel like we're going to get a good amount of response, but. We also are not just looking for people for the beta cohort. You know, we're accepting applications for all our first 4 cohorts. So we'll have 80 slots within that. At this point, we've had a couple hundred people start applications, and a number of the, you know, I would say the majority of those seem to be serious applications where people are filling in the information. We have some where people are just kind of, you know, they want to take a look at the form and haven't submitted that much, But I think anybody who's here now and is listening to what we're talking about right now today and is excited about it is going to have a great shot to get their application in, get it noticed, and be able to get some real serious consideration for the program. We do want it to be competitive. We want to make sure that we're selecting the best possible people. That is because we know that if we get the best people, then employers are going to want to hire from us, and you know, you guys are going to have jobs when you come out of Prime, and that's ultimately the most important thing for us, is that you're getting what you want out of an educational experience, which is getting a chance to start your career. So
I think the other point I want to kind of expand off too, and I know it's being on the other side of the monitor as you are now. You're looking at it as, you know, like, gosh, I really want to start this 18-week program and you know, take that leap of faith. And I want to say on this end of the monitor, not only are we trying to serve you, but we are also very much trying to serve our hiring network. And I want to make sure that you guys understand that emphasis and that responsibility on us. Like, our goal is to make sure that you are all placed. So everyone who gets accepted goes through the program, that you guys get all selling jobs. And I think that I just wanted to say that and wanted you to hear that, because I think that's I would want to know that if I was sitting on the other end of the monitor, like what's in it, you know, what are you guys held accountable to? And that is one of the things that we're held accountable to, is making sure that everyone gets really killer jobs.
Yeah, there's no hiring placement fees that Prime is getting from any of the hiring partners. This is a Minnesota thing, and this is about the students, really. There's no sustainable financial model coming off of that for us. What we're definitely engaged in is making sure that the skills that we're teaching are going to be in demand, that are going to be effective, and that you guys get placed.
And that's really the big difference. I mean, that's part of, you know, I'm guessing what is drawing a lot of you guys to Prime versus another program, or if you haven't gone through one already, is that, you know, we're an educational program that's founded by and is really informed by employers. You know, that we care about what people know for when they end up in the workplace, because that's our orientation on it. And we want you guys to be ready to hit the ground running in your first job, not kind of be struggling to be able to get going. More questions coming in here. This may be a question for workforce. I was working a contract which ended last week. I just applied for unemployment. March is 2 months off. With IC employment being what it is, I anticipate I'll get a new job prior to the start of the program. You're kind of right. It is a good question to talk about with the counselors at the workforce center that you're talking with. What I can tell you is that any dislocated worker will be eligible for the tuition assistance. That's part of the goal. So they look at your annual income, or if you are a dislocated worker, that's going to kind of automatically qualify you. If you're a dislocated worker and you're coming into the program, you also should know that talk to your counselor, because chances are something called re-education assistance may apply to you, which would allow you to continue to receive unemployment benefits without having to be seeking work while you're in the program, because that is your contribution towards getting reemployed. So I would definitely encourage you to talk to those people. Once we get you into the program, we can also hook you up with people at Jewish Children's and Family Services, and they have some really great counselors there that can help direct you to resources.
Solid questions. Yeah, these are fantastic.
Okay, how many entry-level coding jobs are contract versus full-time with benefits? I can kind of take a stab at that. You know, I don't have the market statistics for you exactly. I can tell you that traditionally, you know, we have a mix of placement firms and direct employers in the network. We have 5 or 6 placement firms, and then the bulk of it is direct employers. Placement firms are going to be more likely to be working on a contract basis than they are full-time, although many of them do offer benefits. For the salary, for the apprenticeship positions, that's going to be a bit of a mix. I think there'll be some that are going to be that will be salaried, and some that will have benefits, and there probably are going to be some that are going to be hourly only for contract term. The guidelines that we're trying to set with network partners, and this is really a basement, and then they would go up from here, is that those apprenticeship positions will be a minimum of 12 weeks long, and I think most of them are looking at more like 6 months or more, and there'd be a minimum of $15 an hour. But again, that's I've heard some say, oh well, we start at 20 or we start at $22 an hour. So so there's going to be a bit of a range, but there will be a basement there that if you're taking one of the apprenticeship positions coming out, you would have kind of a safety net with that. Beyond that, I would tend to say it's a little bit of a crapshoot in the industry. Companies like the Nerdery, here we have very, very few contract workers. Almost everybody is brought on full time. How they're going to handle the apprenticeship positions, I'm not certain. I think they may do those as contracts to hire for those first 3 or 6 months, but we can definitely provide details of that as the hiring network starts to coalesce around who wants to offer apprenticeships for which cohorts and that stuff.
The other thing I'll mention too, and this is more just anecdotally my personal experience. So I keep a pretty active LinkedIn profile, which means I have a lot of recruiters reaching out to me, and everything kind of goes in waves. And I would say that the trend that I'm starting to see is a little more, the ask is a little more on full-time, and then trying to staff, but like I said, it goes in waves and it changes. And asking that question now is going to be a lot different than asking that question in July too. So I can tell you that right now everyone's hurting, everyone needs people in the seats. So I think especially like these first 4 cohorts are going to have a kind of a pick of the litter. The other thing we'll notice that I've heard a lot too is that a lot of people who are graduating, like boot camps out in San Francisco, they don't have one job offer, they have like 4 or 5 job offers. And so I think, part of what we're going to talk about probably in the classroom is talking a little bit about what is the end goal? Like, what is it that you want to get to? Is it contract where you want to be making, a lot of cash and, convert that, do something else with that? Or are you looking for a full-time position, maybe paid a little bit less, but have those benefits? And so I think part of, being a software developer is kind of knowing what your end goal is. And we bring that into the classroom and kind of helping you figure out, what is it that you actually want to be like? And maybe if you can't even answer that question week 1, maybe week 6 you can answer it. So yes, there's plenty of spots available, and it's going to be, I think, especially these first 4, you're going to kind of have anecdotal.
Yeah. Your mileage may vary. Next question is, what is the salary range for entry-level positions? And basically, so what we have published on the website right now is what we feel like is a conservative estimate of what an entry-level position can expect, and we're listing that as 50K. The Nerdery, generally, most entry-level positions at the Nerdery are coming in at higher than that. And that's kind of what we hear from the market too, but we want to make sure that we're not, we're keeping your expectations in a very reasonable place, and if anything, we're under promising. I can tell you that from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that average salary for web development, software development for applications, if you look at the Minnesota Bureau of Labor or the National Department of Employment, Bureau of Labor stuff, the average salaries are around 67 to 97, around there. So longer term, a year, 2 years out, I think that that's a very reasonable place for you to be shooting towards and expecting based on kind of national averages. Early on, you kind of expect to start at the low end of the range, but we think that 50 is going to be very safe. We'll be able to provide a lot better numbers after we get the first cohorts out in the field, and we can start to see what kind of salaries they're actually able to command. But we're expecting it to be 50 or north.
And part of the salary-based expectations are that, again, just to stress this one more time, we're looking at entry-level developers coming out of the program. We understand basically the constraints of having limited hours to teach people and within that limited period of time, including an apprenticeship program. And our program is focused on getting beginners in the door and placed. There are other boot camps out there that do promise higher starting salaries and things like that, but they are also not focused on beginners. And that's one thing that, do your due diligence, look around for sure, but know that there are some programs there where they're looking at people who are at a intermediary level coming into that program. So that's where you might see higher salaries along with location, along with the startup culture that they might be going into. Our focus is really on long-term careers and sustainable outcomes for people coming out of the program.
A question here. It's basically saying, I'm currently unemployed. I'm looking for jobs. If I get a job, is that going to knock me out of contention for having workforce funds pay for my tuition? I don't think that I can answer that in a blanket statement, and I'm not the right one to answer it at all. But if you wanted to, go ahead and send me an email. Send an email to hello@primeacademy.io, and tell me a little bit more about your circumstances, and I will forward that on to our partners at the city and try and get a response for you that you can kind of take to the bank. I suspect that it's based on current income, so. If you get a job now and you're working for 2 months, chances are, that's going to make you ineligible for some of those funds if you're over the limit. But I'm more than happy to kind of send that information over to them and get an official answer for you. Okay, this question says, what criteria will you be applying to the applications? What are you looking for in an ideal candidate? I have no experience whatsoever in this field. On what basis will my resume work experience be considered?
You want me to start?
You want to start?
Well, sure. Yeah. So I'll start with some of it. We are looking for good, nice people who are dedicated, motivated learners. You don't necessarily have to come in with any specific background skill set. We're really looking for people who are committed, who are driven, and who know how to be extraordinarily respectful to other people within the program. So we're definitely looking for certain skill sets, certain traits that we can see to take a look and see if, for instance, you are vested in working well with other people, if you know how to communicate well, and then if you also have a past history of being able to do some hard work and staying dedicated to that goal. So I don't think I'm letting any cat out of the bag by sharing that. I think that's fairly obvious from the difficulty of the program. But there's a lot of things that we're looking for that are just going to be inherent at someone who has a lot of drive that will come out from the application.
One thing quick. One thing I can say from having gone through dozens of conversations with local employers and the hiring managers at a lot of these places in those conversations saying, well, this is what we're looking for. They've been really excited, actually. I mean, very interested in people that are coming from non-development backgrounds, people who have customer service experience, people who have sales experience, anybody who has experience in working with people. That's something that's really valuable as an engineer, and it's something that a lot of CS grads and people coming out of more sharply focused and more narrow programs that are really about the technology, they don't always have that. So so there's definitely a real strong interest in people who are coming from non-traditional backgrounds and backgrounds that look a little different than what you might expect from a programmer.
I'm gonna touch a point that I'm sure a lot of people are kind of thinking about too. And I think maybe this is where the question came from, is that the technical challenge, the HTML and CSS portion of the application is intimidating, of course, right? Especially if you don't come from a programming background, you might be thinking, gosh, they're looking for someone with a programming, a little bit of programming background. The truth is, we're really not. But the reason why that is there is that first and foremost, we want to make sure that you know what you're getting into. We want to make sure that you know what web design and web development feels like. So that's why we point to the resources, that because we understand that there are going to be people who have never written a line of HTML in their life, and that's what we kind of expect at. So we pointed to that resource so that way you can show us that yes, you're a dedicated learner, yes, you want to be part of this program, and that you kind of understand what you're getting into. And so that's why that part of the application is in place.
Why not hang out? Okay, so let me jump in. Next question is, do we have a detailed syllabus for the program? We are actually, what Scott and Fred are doing when they're not on Hangouts like this one is working on the curriculum. So we're currently building it out, and that is being done in partnership with representatives from all of the different hiring companies that are working with us. We're expecting to have a little bit more of an outline and a more substantive, getting towards the syllabus in January, and we'll definitely be sharing that out. But unfortunately, we don't have that level of detail at a point that's ready to share quite yet.
The other point I want to make too is that we're also keeping a really close eye on what the tech sector is doing. So if you look at Nodes, which is one of the technologies that we're looking at teaching come April, they have recently, there's been talk of them splitting off to IO. So then we're kind of watching, well, what is the tech community looking at, Node or IO.js? And so actually 4 months in the tech in the tech world is a long time. So we want to make sure that and while I definitely have a lot of experience in those technologies and teaching those technologies, we want to make sure that what we say in December or what we say in January is going to be as close to what we're actually teaching in the classroom as humanly possible, which is kind of tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. So adaptability and basically continual development is a major thing. That's a theme that you'll see over and over again. And going back to that prior question, that's also a theme we're looking at for applicants.
And I mean, it's completely understandable if you really kind of want to know what you're getting into. You're definitely welcome to kind of focus your application more on later cohorts, or hold your application and finish it up at some point in the future. You don't have to apply right now. We think that we have a good enough amount of candidates where we may very well fill up a few of those early cohorts. But you're welcome to. It's reasonable to say I want to see exactly what I'm going to be learning before I get started. It's just we're working on it. So,
well, I think certainly before admissions closes for beta, that we'll definitely have a pretty absolutely.
Let me pull this one up here. So this question says, is there a source you would recommend that we could prep ourselves better for the start of our class? The last web coding I did was in 1998. Tableland, way to go. I know you have the boot camp before class, but I would like to prep myself further to succeed in this.
This is interesting because we were just talking about this not more than 2 days ago. I personally believe that the stuff on Code Academy, that free stuff, is exceptional. I think that it does, and I'm sure the cognitive psych guy would agree with me that the way that they instruct and they teach by doing, reading, doing, and kind of practice. Specifically, the resume challenge called for the Make a Website course. I think the follow-up to that one, the Make an Interactive Website course, is phenomenal. It was actually in the earlier versions of the admissions process, we actually had included that course as well too as part of the application. So I think doing that would only serve you a great deal. And then actually, as soon as you're done with that, hopping down and taking the JavaScript and jQuery classes, and then if you want to supplement, go back and supplement the HTML and CSS. I think knocking out all of the Code Code Academy stuff, I think would be a great way to prep. And I think once you get into the pre-launch phase or the boot phase, that pre-work phase, you're going to notice that the stuff we have planned for that actually is going to emulate a lot of what was done over in Code Academy. So the more exposure you have to that style of learning, the better it'll serve you in the pre-launch. Okay. Great question, by the way.
Couple quick ones here. The salary you speak about is for non-degreed people, implied question mark. Yes, that basically what we found in talking to the hiring network at this point, it's kind of hard. The statistics that I quoted are from Bureau of Labor, which tends to say that most positions in software development and web development require a 2 or 4 year degree. Having said that, if you've looked at the unemployment rates and the number of jobs that are available in this space right now, employers are really not in a position to be choosing. If you can do the work, and this is something we've heard from every single employer in our network, and a lot of people that just anecdotally that we know, is they're not looking a gift horse in the mouth. If you can do the work, you're going to be welcome there. And really, as a whole, I can speak for the nerdery for sure. Educational level really doesn't affect where your starting salary is. It's your skill ability that really determines that. The nerdery has always had a tech challenge, an aptitude challenge as part of their application process, and that's part of what we're really working towards in our program is making sure that somebody's going to be able to kind of knock it out of the park on those things. So.
Just one quick thing follow up on that is that that's one of the things that we're really excited about with the diversity of hiring partners that we've brought on. We do have some large organizations out there that might have more stringent HR requirements, but we also have a lot of hiring partners where, in speaking with them, that's absolutely not something that they hold as a requirement. Like Mark said, it's skill level coming in that's going to be the dependent characteristic.
The other question kind of associated with that I'll answer real quick. It says, will the nerdery be hiring interns? Well, they'll probably be classified as apprentices or junior developers, but we are talking with the nerdery, and I think that it's very likely that they will be bringing in apprenticeships from the program and working for it, as well as looking to interview candidates for entry-level positions, just the official entry-level positions. But I think apprenticeships will definitely be on the horizon there. They're in the process of reorganizing the structure of the company into a number of small teams, and they're trying to figure out how to fit apprentice within that context. So there would actually be a kind of a good core group of mentors for supporting each apprentice. Okay. We have a question here that says, what would make someone who graduates from this program a preferable hire over college grads in CS or workers already in the field? And I can give you a couple answers based on my conversation with the hiring network, and then these guys might chime in with some other stuff too. But what I can tell you is that entry-level hire, there are not a ton of people that are doing a ton of entry-level hiring out of college CS programs. Or out of zero experience people in general. It's kind of a little bit of a paradox in the market right now, is that there's all of these jobs and people aren't necessarily hiring entry-level people. And it's part of why we created Prime, in that in talking with people, what we've learned is that the thing that they're scared of in a lot of cases is the inconsistency of talent. People who are hiring entry-level can get kind of leery about, oh, I don't know, like this person could be way up here, they could be way down there, and it's just kind of all over the place. One of the things that employers have been really excited about working with Prime on is that because they're having a hand in shaping the curriculum and providing feedback and guidance on what's going to get taught, and they're also kind of coming in as speakers and participating in the classroom to some extent, they have a really high level of confidence that we are delivering students that are capable of hitting the ground running and doing what they need done in their entry-level positions. And so from that perspective, I think that we're actually going to have, I think Prime graduates are going to compare very favorably to traditional candidates for people in the network. The other thing that we're really trying to put a focus on in Prime, in our curriculum and in our program, is on getting real-world work into the program. So you'll be doing a ton of simulated work and pair programming exercises in the curriculum, but you'll also be working on actual projects. We're hoping to bring startups into the classroom and have student groups working pro bono on projects for startups, so that you're actually getting a chance to have some real experience with a real company as part of your schooling. And we think that that's going to yield a portfolio of work, a resume that is going to be really, really strong for an entry-level candidate being able to go in. Our goal is to have you guys competing more in the 6 months to 1 year of experience range and being considered in that regard, rather than going into the market as we have no experience, we're fresh out of school. And that's something that a lot of college programs have great technical components, but they don't always have the tactical skills-based stuff that people want to see, and they don't always really cover the behavioral stuff. How do you take and receive feedback? How do you negotiate with a client? How do you work on things that we're going to be spending a lot of time at in Prime, and the hiring network partners have been really, really favorable about that.
Yeah, a lot of the partners have said that they want good coworkers first who can program, not necessarily just a CS major coming out. And a lot of the personal relationships and interactions that we have set up through networking events, the mentoring, like Mark had mentioned, is really going to give a leg up on that.
What these guys said, but I just want to reiterate. I think one of the big points here is that what Fred just said is that what I find interesting every time I talk to our hiring network is that it becomes less about the CS theory, like computer science theory, and while there is lots of that in the program, actually what they really care about is Gosh, do you know what it feels like to bring a project from from a wireframe to a completed project? Do you know what the QA cycle looks like? Do you know what testing looks like? Do you know what all these basically, do you know how to breathe life into a project and get it on the shelf kind of thing? So I think that's that's the stuff, especially with Mark and myself having worked at the Nerdery and having, I personally have 70 projects underneath my belt with companies like Best Buy, Targets, EA, Sony, Disney. I mean, I have a number, I've done this a number of times. I know Mark has as well too. So there's a huge emphasis already on that because because we have that Nerdery background, we have a Nerdery backing as well too. So for all intents and purposes, like Mark had said, it's going to look a lot more like you have 1 year of experience rather than year zero.
An email question here, a Google Plus question saying, what will the average amount of hourly homework be expected? So basically, other than the time that you're spending in class, like what does homework look like? What is that? Is that every night? Is it weekends?
Sure. Every day when we wrap up, we're wrapping up with some sort of challenge. So whether it be group or solo, we're wrapping up with some sort of challenge, especially from the weekend. Now, the funny thing about programming is that even the multi-million-dollar projects, if you were to code it from start to finish and just typing knew everything you were going to type, it would take you maybe a day. But they don't take a day. They take a year or 2 years or sometimes 3 or whatever the case may be. The thing about programming is that it can take, depending on your level of understanding of the topic at hand, it can take 15 minutes or it can take 2 days. Now, obviously, we're trying to and so we're trying to set you up to a point where it takes as little time as possible because that shows that you have a mastery of topics. So really, what's going to dictate how much time is being spent outside the classroom is how you're engaging inside the classroom. I mean, obviously, I would never purposely craft an assignment to burn people out. Like, we understand that we are creating an intense program and that the time that you're here is substantial. But at the end of the day, we are also held accountable to our hiring partners and need to know that you know the material. So those assignments serve as a kind of a way to test that and see how you're doing. And we don't want to see you fail. We want to see you succeed. We want to see this go really quickly, really smoothly. We want to just deliver the information, have you understand it, have you do a great job, and make tons of money. And everyone's really happy, but it's all going to be about that one part, the toughest part, right? How do you engage in the classroom? So it's really difficult to answer that question without,
Maybe one thing that we could say, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Scott, but I think this is fair to say, is that we are. I mean, it's not necessarily a flipped classroom, but we are following a model where the majority of the time that you're spending in the classroom during the day is spent working on stuff, working on code, building things. So it's not the model of some traditional kind of educational institutions where you're going to a lecture and the teacher's there for the lecture and then they're gone and you're working on it all alone.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be lecturing for 9 hours a day. It's just not my wife's gonna hold on after day 2. It's very much we have about 2 to 4 hours roughly of lecture planned per day, and that gradiates back as we get further in the program. It becomes less and less lecture, but it's more about getting your hands dirty and actually applying the things that we're talking about in the lecture right then and there with somebody who can help you. So ideally, the assignment is just the solidification of the topics that we covered that day or that week, and so you're applying those things that you know. The one thing I will say is that do plan on while you're in the program to have some time set aside for the weekends. Like we are planning to utilize that weekend time as working time. And once again, they're going to be a little bit more. They're going to be a little bit bigger than the daily assignments, but they're not. I don't want to eat up your whole weekend either. I'm trying to be respectful of your time. So.
One of the great question here, so it says, given the youth culture or perception of such in tech, do you anticipate any difficulties in the placement of non-traditional apprentices, for instance, older women? Yeah, I think you're going to be surprised at the interest that a lot of companies have. I mean, we have the Nerdery and Modern Climate signed up to provide $1,000 worth of scholarships for every woman that's accepted in the program. And that's because companies like them are really interested in diversifying their talent pool. One of the things about and it's one of the core values of the school is that empathy is greater than engineering, right? So if you can sympathize with your audience, if you understand what they're going through, you're going to be better at solving their problems. And having a monoculture within technology really prevents developers from being able to empathize with a lot of different groups of people. And especially the larger companies in the network, the Thomson Reuters, the Targets, the 3Ms, the Medtronics, they're very interested in bringing in more diverse candidates, and you know, are really interested in bringing in people with a good level of maturity and you know, experience in the field.
I think the other big point about that is that that's the employers themselves, but I would also say that the individual, like the tech community, the community is actually the program community. We don't. I would say that they're the coolest group that you know, I've seen in more cooler communities. I don't think that none of us. I can't think of anything that would, you know, that it's just not a factor. If that makes sense. It's just like it's. Yeah.
Yeah. A question here that says, during lecture time, can we record the lecture to our computers so we can go back to review the material? We're hopefully going to do it for you, but we won't stop you from doing it too if you want to.
Yes.
Yeah, we're hoping to be able to record the lectures on a daily basis. We're working on kind of what technology suite's going to work for that, but we do want to be able to have reference for people, especially, you know, I mean, it's an 18-week program. People are going to be sick sometimes. They're gonna, you know, they're gonna have days that they can't miss or that they have to miss for whatever reason, and we want to make sure that we're getting a backup so you're not falling behind. So
and I imagine too that I mean, I'm probably looking at this at the other end too. We'll probably have something in the student conduct or student contract that protects us on our end too, to make sure that, you know, we're not having our recorded material turn out so behind us. But yeah, we'll sort that out later. I'm not worried about that.
Not like the bootleggers, the movie theater or anything.
Fine bootleg.
Okay, so I think this will probably be our last question for today. We're running out of time, but it's a good one. It's relevant. So it says, do you have an ETA on the time frame from application submission to acceptance or rejection notice? And since these guys are looking at me as if I should answer,
the holidays are here. I mean, it's the monastery, right? So this, after the holidays, after the New Year, I believe that second week in January, we are taking a heavy look at all of the applications that have come in. We'll be scheduling interviews that week. I imagine that interviews will also take place that week if time permits. From there, I would say that we probably, you know, we're going to keep the beta application open through the 22nd of January. So. I think that after the interviews happen and we have a chance to sit down and talk about who we'd like to see in that beta, you'll probably see responses by February 6th. So
yeah, and you'll be hearing from us about interviews and stuff like that ahead of time. I mean, we're kind of trying to make sure that you know, with the holidays, it's just kind of an awkward time, but we're trying to be as responsive as possible and to make sure that people know as soon as we know whether they're continuing to move forward to the next step or not, just so that we're not leaving you hanging. But you'll definitely expect to be hearing from us very early January. So
yeah, and part of that rationale for a little more time too is just to make sure that there's the best cohort of peers that you're going to be working with as possible. And we're definitely committed to making sure that there's good diversity within that cohort too. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Valve, the software company, but I'm a huge fan of Dave Newell's approach there, and the approach that diversity of thought, opinion, people makes a far stronger programming background, and you can just do more things with that. And the hiring partners have reiterated on that quite a few times, so I think that's going to be a huge thing going forward for the group that you have.
I'm going to end. I want to end with one last thought too. So just so you guys kind of already know our time frames. Obviously, there's about a solid 2 weeks before we start cracking open applications and start really calling through your answers and your code and your logic questions. So while there is a sense of urgency from the standpoint of like there's competition to get into the school, treat it as such. Basically, take the time that you have to put your best foot forward. Take your time and build a good looking resume. You know. Take time and work through the logic questions. Don't guess. You know, if you don't know, use the I don't know button. And of course, take the time to think out those short answer questions and think about what you want to tell us about you. So take your time and make sure your answers are crafted, but also understand there is a little bit of sense of urgency in the fact that you know, it is competitive. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have you know, keep the questions rolling in through email at hello@primeacademy.io, or if you've already begun the admissions process and you're having a problem with anything in there, have questions, send it to admissions@primeacademy.io. We're gonna have 3 more sessions like this coming up over the next couple weeks. I think there's one next Tuesday, I think, or Wednesday, and then there'll be 2 in January early on. I think on the 2nd and the 7th. So if you love the sound of our voice so much and you can't wait until you get admitted that you want to hear it more, feel free to join in for any of those and keep asking questions. We're more than happy to cover anything that we can. We want to be as transparent as possible and help you guys make sure you know exactly what you're getting into and feel really good about applying. So, all right, everyone. So have a good day. Enjoy.
Thank you so much.
And we will hopefully see from you through your application soon. So thanks very much.
Thanks,
Have a good day.